All right. Well, I'm glad we were able to give our viewers a peek into that, and to you as well, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure you welcomed the extra hour of sleep last night, if you even took advantage of it. But we heard Donald Trump, not Donald Trump, pardon me, the opposite of that, Barack Obama. We heard him talking about just how the choice in this election seems so clear. Where do Democrats stand today trying to win control of both the White House and chambers of Congress?
Well, I think the contrast is crystal clear. And, this election Alex, is so much more than just Democrats beating Republicans. This is really about democracy. This is about America and who we want to be. Your reporter just reported on what Donald Trump said about the media. Right. That's disgusting. That's deranged. That's delusional. It is so dark. We heard what he said about Liz Cheney. And this is where Donald Trump is. And I think a lot of people, 4 years has passed since Donald Trump was president. But you remember, for 4 years, that is the type of stuff that we were getting every day out of the White House. It is time for America to turn the page, to close this chapter once and for all, because it is not who we are. And I'm not talking about we as in Democrats. I mean, we as Americans. It is simply not who we are. We are better than that. I remember when it was disqualifying, when a candidate for president didn't pay their taxes or something. This guy is a 34-count convicted felon that was impeached twice, that sexually assaulted a woman. Why do we want that in the White House? We don't. We don't need that. America's better than that. And so what this closing argument is showing is Kamala Harris is talking about the American people and not ways to make their lives better. Donald Trump is talking about this violent stuff, payback, retribution, and revenge. It's not who we are. I don't think that's what the American people want. And I think we will see that on November 5th in this election. They're going to vote for Kamala Harris.
And you've just given all the reasons for which Barack Obama was just saying why the choice in this election seems so clear. And yet here we are in a very, very tight race. Is there internal polling or is there early vote data that is giving you either hope or concern?
Well, what gives me hope is being out on the ground. I've been in probably 16 states over the last 22, 23 days. The only people who have been out there probably more is Kamala Harris herself. But we've been crisscrossing the country. And I can tell you, just like I told, many of my friends in the media in the midterms, when they were saying the red wave, I told them then, when you're on the ground and you're talking to the people, you feel the energy, the wave of where it's going. And I'm telling you this, I was just in North Carolina for 3 days. I was in Nevada, Reno for 2 days. We are going to win this election, and I feel it on the ground. There's a ground shift. There's a change in terms of tenor. There's a lot of energy out there. And I think people are fed up with what they are seeing with Donald Trump, and they're ready for a change. And Kamala Harris is that change.
And the DNC announcing this weekend that six-figure paid media campaign in Georgia and North Carolina, specifically targeting the rural voters in these final days of the election. Is that going to make a big difference, you expect, in the next 48 hours?
I think it's going to make a huge difference. I consider myself a dirt road Democrat. I grew up off of a dirt road, so I understand the unique things about growing up in rural America. And so what we're really trying to target are particularly communities of color that are in rural North Carolina and Georgia, and making sure they have all of the information, all the things that they need to get out and vote, because it can really have a huge impact on what happens on the top of the ticket in both of those states.
And NBC News has new reporting that North Carolina is actually making the Trump campaign nervous. This is a state that Trump won in 2016 and then again narrowly in 2020. You were at the Harris rally in Charlotte yesterday. Just give me a sense of the level of enthusiasm that's giving you the confidence to come on this show and say that you think she can do it.
I can tell you. So I attended both the Harris rally yesterday, and then Barack Obama was there a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And the energy there on the ground in Charlotte, in Mecklenburg County. I mean, and the VP has packed the huge Coliseum there in North Carolina. Folks are energized, and the organization on the ground is like nothing we have had in North Carolina since 2008. I visited one of the field offices with the VP's sister, Maya Harris, And I mean, they're knocking on the doors. They're hitting their benchmarks. I mean, the door numbers right now, Alex, are just blowing my mind. I talked with the chair in Pennsylvania the other day, and the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, and he told me this, that for the campaign, we're going to hit 5 million doors. But when you add in third-party groups, 10 million doors in the state of Pennsylvania. Wow. I mean, that's a game changer. That's a game changer. And you don't see anything comparable on the Republican side. And that's what we've been building for the last 4 years. And I give Joe Biden credit for that and Kamala Harris, because from day one of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris going into the White House, they were committed to rebuilding the infrastructure of the Democratic Party through the DNC. And we've had a 50-state strategy. So I'm not going to be surprised by, some upset wins in some states that aren't even on the radar, because we built the infrastructure on the ground, and we have some of the best state parties that I've seen in a long, long time.
Well, indeed, Biden and Harris committed to it, as well as you, DNC Chair Jamie Harrison. Thank you so much. Best of luck on Tuesday and getting any kind of sleep between now and then.